Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back. Welcome back to day two of the Power of AR. My name is Wade Acuff, and I'm your host today. And joining us is digital artist Luke Choice. What's up, Luke?
Hey Wade, good to see you again, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Um, Before we get into it, let's just take care of a couple things. If you missed the previous stream, you can catch a replay on Behance and YouTube. Check out Karina Landmeyer draw and animate food illustrations using Adobe Fresco. This week we are replaying our top creative challenges throughout the years. Tune into the Illustrator Challenges where you can learn a new skill every weekday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time, right before this stream. We will have an artist spotlight later today. The artist spotlight is a segment on Adobe Live where we celebrate creatives from the community. So if you want to nominate yourself or another creative, use the tab above the chat. So Luke, tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, and what we have planned for today.
Absolutely. I'm Luke Choice, better known as Velvet Spectrum, and I'm a 3D design and animator based in Astoria, Oregon. My work sort of strays from illustration into 3D design, and now it's moving into augmented reality. And I like to find ways to merge all my different interests together. And I think we'll get through that today and show you a little bit of my illustration process, along with how to prepare files and maximize your AR capabilities using Adobe Aero. So pretty
Awesome.
excited for day two.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited about a little bit of a sneak peek, a little preview of maybe audio today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think it's going
yeah,
to be really fun to get in and show some of the built-in assets that you can use in Aero using audio, which is going to add another dimension to your work. So
absolutely.
keen to get started whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's get going. I'm going to say hi to chat. What's up, chat? What's up, Val, our mod today? Good to see you. We've got Colby, Umacorn, Katarina, Steve. Everybody, what is up? Get your questions into chat as well. This is our last day today. So if you have any burning AR questions, Luke is our man.
Yeah, for sure. So yesterday I started with this file here. We called Adobe Live Day 1. So I might even just duplicate that and call it Day 2. So always good practice to just have a little bit of a spare copy lying around just in case you need to go back for something. But let's rename that. I'm all about iterations.
Yes.
It comes from years of messing things up. Okay, so Day 2, let's get into it.
Yeah, even though the cloud does help us out, I always have to back things up constantly.
Always. Okay, so yesterday we put together our image anchor artwork, and I'll just give you a quick preview of where we ended up. So this was just demonstrating some of the tools that we've got, and at the end of yesterday we had that little proximity enter and exit trigger with that tap me there. But I thought it'd be really cool to sort of go in and show you how to quickly and easily add some audio to your AR scene. So if we go back into edit, what we can do is we can set an audio trigger to an object in the scene. So let me just
we're getting right to it. Nice.
Yeah. I figured a nice sort of seaside scene. We'll give it a bit of water sound. So I'm going to just bring in an abstract shape just to act as my audio control. Just makes it a little bit easier. So let's just say a cube. And what we're going to do is actually, we can minimize this, shrink it right down. Can be anything really. And I'm just going to move that to the side, but they're going to apply my behavioral trigger to the box.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just call this cube audio trigger. So now back in our triggers, if we come here and it's again, you can apply a start tap or proximity as a way to trigger the sound to actually enable. And we're going to do it just from the start, so it'll play automatically. And then with that action, all you got to do is just come up and play audio. So at the moment, there's nothing actually set. So you get a little warning, but if you quickly just come over here in our settings and just open our folder icon, you can see there's audio presets that are already built into Aero, which are actually really handy. So if we just click on those,
Oh, nice.
brings us to some of these presets already loaded. So let's say ambience. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of different, let's see, what have we got? Nature trail, ocean shore. So
Are
I mean,
these like soundscapes? Like,
yeah, I think they're just
yeah.
nice compressed audio files that, could really just sort of piece together. You could do multiples, I'm sure. But if we bring in this ocean shore, so you can automatically see that's resolved that conflict there. And then if we even just play.
Oh, yeah.
You already hear that. So we'll just turn that audio trigger hidden so you won't even know that in the scene.
That's really cool. I didn't know that there were audio presets. I knew that you had, animations and some models and things.
It's really, really handy to get started with the audio stuff, having that built in. Because I was thinking about recording some of my own stuff and trying to add that in and compress files, but having this stuff makes it super, super quick. So even if we just hit preview, automatically it brings the scene to life a little bit more.
Definitely, yeah.
So, I mean, it's so quick and easy to actually get the audio in there. But you can even do, for my birding experience that I did with Aero last year, I had birds in my scene and I wanted them to actually be interactive. When you came close enough to the bird, it would trigger their bird call. So I didn't want bird calls to double up as well. So I had it trigger within a proximity. So if I came within a certain distance of that bird object in my scene, it would play their call. And then if I moved to the next one, it would play their call. So it was more about this sort of like identifying bird calls and it's sort of like if you could be in the birding world and interact and actually get real-time feedback about what bird you're actually finding and viewing. That was kind of the idea behind that there. But
yeah, that's what got me excited about these audio triggers. That project. It's like, oh, that's a really nice way to use that.
Because if we did, we could add maybe a second one, say to the ship's wheel, and we could even, let's say, maybe we could add a little movement sound to, let's say, when we tap, and then let's play audio. So again, go to our audio presets, and then there are some whooshes. Let's see. I'm not sure exactly how this will sound, but if you just did a little play icon, probably a little bit too comical. So let's try something else. I wonder if even transportation might have something. Let's see what all these whooshes are like. I don't think that's going to work with a wheel spinning, but crashes and impacts.
Wood creaking, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Let's see what this is.
Yeah, pretty short.
Yeah.
But you really get the idea of how quickly and easily you can just sort of cycle through these and check things. Transportation.
I like that it also lets you know when you add the trigger if there's not a file that's available.
Yeah.
That's really nice because there's sometimes you get into a program and you're like, I don't know what I did wrong.
Yeah.
There's no warning or error.
Exactly. It's like you immediately know you have to look for where to resolve something. But again, it's like something you could definitely import your own audio files if you needed to. Just doing select file, but I think we might even just leave that off for now. Yes. So we'll just delete that. But yeah, I don't think there's too much more really to go through in audio for this one.
Yeah, that really does give it a nice setting, having that
Yeah,
seaside sound.
exactly. So I thought that, that was kind of just how I wanted to wrap up this composition that we worked on yesterday, and then move into a little bit more of my Photoshop illustration process with a butterfly wing, and show you how to,
Yeah,
customize and make your own. So I'm
right.
just going to go back home here.
While you're doing that, we have a question from Colby
Mm,
Kleitz. Is there a file size you recommend? I've used Aero before, and it took a long time to load the scene on
hmm
someone's phone.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know what the sort of optimal megabyte size would be, but it's good practice to keep it as low as possible when it comes to, especially the size of your image graphics.
Hmm.
And if you're doing audio, doing models, images, it's going to start to stack up. But I'm pretty impressed with how quickly things load. I know it's going to take a little bit of time to actually recognize the amount of data coming through, but I think that having things stored on the cloud really helps that,
Yeah.
especially when you're sharing that with other people and they're having to access it. So there's definitely a consideration when I'm building this stuff to make sure that people can, have pretty good access to it. But I think if you go through all the starter assets that Adobe
Hmm.
have in Aero already, they're a good indication of, the amount of complexity you can get away with.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know there's a help page out there because I found it this past weekend
mhm.
when I was trying to load in some models that had, millions of polys. Wasn't going to quite handle that.
Yeah,
And it has
yeah,
some
yeah.
optimization, suggestions and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So I was just going to show. So this is the master set I had, just with some basic behaviors that I loaded in for people to check this out on my Behance page. But here I'm just going to show you like creating this butterfly here, and I'm actually going to show you how to create this sort of orbital movement. Um, and I think we'll start off just actually going through and having a bit of fun in Photoshop and designing a new
Yes. Yes.
butterfly wing, and then how we bring that in and get it to animate in a more realistic way.
Get to see some of your Photoshop skills,
Yeah, it's
your
where it all started
illustration
for
skills.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to Photoshop. I've already got the wing that I designed here.
Hmm.
So I feel like, I've got my mask template here. Um, but I feel like I might actually just delete everything I've created already and just start from scratch.
I'm a big fan of that. Big
Yeah.
fan of starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Love to see the process.
So
That was the
let's,
thing I was thinking about with when just kind of looking back at what we did yesterday and how the ease of use of Aero
mm-hmm.
really kind of puts everything in perspective because a lot of us know how to use. I know, especially some of the people I see in chat already know how to use a lot of the core programs, and you're building assets day in and day out. Now,
Yeah,
really, all you have to do is break them down, bring them into Aero, and within a few
exactly.
minutes, you have an experience. It's
Yeah,
really
it really is
fascinating,
pulling on all the
exciting.
other programs to create the graphics, to bring it into Aero. You're not really going to create graphics in Aero. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm just going to even create, let's say, maybe 1200 by 1200 here. And then I feel like we could even change the actual shape of the butterfly to make it maybe a bit more of a dragonfly.
Oh yes, yes.
So, I'm just thinking about how it's going to come into Aero, and I want it to be basically started from this right-hand side. So, I'm a vector in Photoshop guy. I don't know if this is bad form.
No, no,
I've always just done my
no. It's that.
vectors in Photoshop and brushed in.
Hey, anything that gets the work done is
Yeah,
your process is your process.
yeah,
I mean, there's always ways to be like more efficient or whatever, but if you get the work done,
yeah.
I'm kind of a convert, I guess you could say. I use
Hmm.
more vector now in Photoshop than when I started.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just really always gravitated to the sort of cut up and tear things in Photoshop rather than the points in Illustrator. It was definitely like, I definitely started out in Illustrator, but eventually moved predominantly into Photoshop.
Val has a question. Luke,
Yeah.
is there a kind of AR project you really want to do but haven't made the time for yet?
I think these projects are great for me because they give me the opportunity to do these projects that I have been thinking about. So when Aero reached out about doing a project like this, it was a good opportunity for me to take these ideas of like the tattoos to life that I'd done sporadically over the years, but really actually give it a home to live in and a way for people to experience it.
Oh yeah. So Val, the answer is Luke is already living his best life.
Yeah. I mean, they always say just make the work that you want to be doing. So,
Exactly.
you know, it's great when you can sort of reference work from your portfolio as a way to
Oh
expand
yeah.
from there.
Yeah, and you create, the whole portfolio thing with creating the work that you
Yeah,
want to people to hire you for.
exactly.
Don't show the things sure you know how to do it and you can do it, but is that what you want to be doing day in and day out? Don't show
Yeah,
that work. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to go back to the start here and just pinch my own colors. Just going to select something here. Select this. And I got to tell you, I'm not loving this. I'm
Well, you're
feeling
just getting
like this
started.
actually might be a better way to go. I was thinking dragonfly, but I like the idea of the eye really working here, and I don't know how I'm going to really pull that off. So I'm going to just like
Well,
scrap
sure.
that. Let's do that. And I'm just going to copy myself. And I have to say, like, my main thing I look at in people's work is lines and basically just how smooth they are and the consideration around that. Okay. So I think that's a bit prettier, but still needs some work. So I usually always come in and just put in a really rough outline and then I tweak my lines. I think like all my favorite comic book artists always had the best line work. So I think that's where my obsession came from.
Do you have some on hand favorites, comic book wise, comic book artist wise?
For me, Todd McFarlane was a legend, is a legend.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I was always a Spider-Man kid growing up. Mark Bagley, I always loved his Venom. And I think that's what I was always obsessed with was just, I would stand at the newsagent and pick out ones that had artwork. I wasn't really considering what the best storyline was. It was more
Right.
about the art for
Right.
me. So I feel like it might even just squeeze that a bit. And then let's pop in just a rough eye shape. It's actually quite nice little trick just to bring out the circle and then
Yeah. Got to
just
use those shortcuts.
pinch that down and then I will give you a nice almond shaped eye. Let's make that white. And always give it a little bit of a tilt down. So then we're just gonna sort of play off all the lines in here and really just sort of trick it out like this. I actually like to work with just inverting, creating a mask. So then all my shapes and everything can go underneath and I'm not worried about like trying to fit it to the line work.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave that on top. And then try and like get a nice sort of complementary curve happening there. almost like an eyebrow coming down.
Yeah, those masks come in really handy when you just want to rough something up real quick and you don't have to worry about, before that was a thing, and I do remember those dark days. There's always been ways to make them, but so much easier now.
Yeah. So I always just try and like pick a point where it begins the curve and just sort of drag out from there. And I really don't have a plan here. I'm just kind of like always just going with line work, trying to figure out what works. And then we tweak from there.
Is this butterfly also based off of a real tattoo, or?
No, not really. It's obviously take a lot of inspiration from the patterns and things that are in traditional, but I wanted to give it a little bit more of a digital contemporary look.
Right. So this is a Luke Choice original.
Yeah.
Is what you're telling us.
Yeah, it's definitely a free-flowing, freestyling. But let's just make even the bottom part a different color to separate that. Let's make it a little darker. So we'll even follow off that line. I always just like to select something and then pick something in that color range.
Mm-hmm.
Let's even bring that up.
Just as a reminder for anybody just coming in, we are with digital artist Luke Choice, and right now we're working on some assets to take into Aero, making a butterfly wing from scratch, no less.
So we'll give it a little pupil. Yep.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if you're watching over on YouTube, we can only see the chat over on Behance, so come join us at behance.net/Adobe Live and get your questions in. Everybody in chat is discussing their comic book history and knowledge.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we'll just copy that, make the pupil. And then let's just add a couple little details in here, just kind of like these.
Mm-hmm. Almost like eyelashes.
Exactly, yeah.
Getting some interest in how you're using the pen tool in Photoshop. It is a thing, people. Pen tool is available. Vectors in Photoshop. Who would have thought?
I mean, the only way I ever do it. Cool. So I kind of like the basic shapes that are happening here. So I might even just add a couple more in and then start to shade in.
Yeah, I want to see how you do this shading. I'm really, I've got a few ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just always like, I use my shape splines as my selection tools.
Exactly.
So I'll usually just like put another layer above. And what I wanted to really do was, with tattoo design, they really rely heavily on how putting in the dark black. So I wanted to bring that in. So I'm just going to get a brush, nice soft round, bring that up, got the black, and just shade things in. And I mean, this is how I do everything. Because then you can just like hide your shape layer. I use them just as my selection tools, really. So I'll select that same one above it, bring it in.
Yeah, it's kind of like with the ribbon from yesterday. I love that I mean, obviously they're just image assets, but I like how you can even start tricking the eye a little bit, with a flat image, even though you're dealing with 3D objects in the AR space. It can be fun to figure out what's what sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think you wouldn't, with that banner, you wouldn't really notice until you got sideways on it, whether it was
Exactly.
3D or 2D. So I might even just bring in some pattern shapes. And I just, I go pretty quick with this stuff, just copy and pasting and
Mm-hmm. Val is suggesting her classic move of turning your paintbrush to dissolve to add some texture.
oh, okay. Yeah. So it gives a little bit of a noise grain to it.
Yeah, exactly. Val has some interesting techniques with the dissolve tool or dissolve blend mode option. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's funny. I really haven't deviated too far from the process that I've been doing for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, when it works, right?
Yeah, it's just the way I'm comfortable piecing things together. But we'll always just merge those together and maybe bring those into the yellow spectrum there. And then super easy just to maybe add like a stroke to it with a layer style. Double clicking, add a stroke.
And layer styles are a whole other
Yeah,
powerful. I mean, there's so much you can do in a layer style with layer styles.
yeah. It is interesting to really sort of like, back in the day, I used to do this stuff a lot heavily, but then it was really trying to do things manually, but they do come in handy for a lot of tasks. I mean, you could even duplicate again and then just add the position on the outside,
Right.
move in center. So then maybe let's change that to the blue. There we go.
Yeah.
So then you can like double those up. I mean, I believe you can add, you can add multiple strokes here.
Yeah, you could do it within the apps. Absolutely.
So let's even I might even just turn that to a rasterized layer and then just lock in and color on that. Because then I'm just going to duplicate that one. Control J, and then bring the one underneath down. And then I'll copy underneath again.
Yep.
And then I'll just give them a little rotation so there's a little bit of movement to it.
There's also something very meditative about watching someone work and, when they know what they're doing. And
Yeah.
you just kind of get lost in the process watching.
So that last one comes over, so we'll just drop that underneath.
We're getting shouts to save. You've got to save, Luke.
I'm going to do that right now. Okay,
I think the fear of the untitled -1 at the top of the window is always making people nervous.
Honestly, yeah, like just saving files is one of those things that stops me from doing a lot of things. I'm always just like, I'll do it later, but
got to keep going. The process can't break it. Got to go.
Yeah, it really is. When you feel in the mood, you just sometimes saving isn't the priority.
Yeah, and you can set up an autosave or however you want to do it.
Yeah. So I might even just add in a little outer glow on the eye. There we go. Wait, yeah, I'm on the black. Yeah, okay. So we'll just crank that up a bit. Back to normal. Make that white.
Oh yeah, it's a nice touch.
And then just sort of bring on the spread a little bit. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good for now. And I think it's a good example just to sort of, let's actually make some blue in here. And let's add a little bit more of the shape, and then we'll save out and we'll get into Aero.
Yeah, it's good to see this process though. Like it's not besides, you know, your own levels of years of experience, it's not too complicated just to make something to take to
Yeah,
Aero, you know.
yeah. I think that's the real key about, you know, demonstrating this over the couple of days is just to show
Hmm.
like, if you need an asset, just quickly make it and bring it into Aero.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's so easy to replace it that if even if you're making, you know, placeholders, you
exactly.
can literally call it placeholder and
Yeah.
bring it in.
So I've got that there. I'm just going to rasterize that as well and just paint right inside that. Add some black, give this a little bit more shadow in there. And maybe this one too, rasterize, lock in.
Yeah, bringing out that
Yeah, I think it
dark
just,
ink look.
yeah. And maybe on this side too. Because we know it's going to have a little bit of, you know, shading
Hmm.
brushed in here where it actually meets the butterfly's body. So I might even just put a black layer there. We can even bring that to the top. So when that's going to be in Aero, it'll just be mimicking a little bit of shadow. So
I dig it.
I'm going to save that. And then what I'm going to do is then group everything, even hidden stuff, just to clean it up. And then just going to put a mask on this, select it, and then we have our PNG wing. So what I could do is I like to just select the largest area and then just go to image and crop.
Oh yeah, nice.
So we've got nice, perfect edged artwork. So let's save that. We'll quick export that as a PNG into our live files. And then what we're going to do, we'll start fresh. So we'll get out of here. And then let's create, well, actually, yeah, let's create a new file. So butterfly day 2. Okay. So actually in the files I've made accessible on my Behance page, you can get the butterfly and there's actually a butterfly body. So I've created 2 assets here where there's actually one with wings, but there's one that you can play with that is just the 3D forms of the body and then bring in your own wings to play with. So we open that so you can see here.
So it's just built in different sections so that you can animate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do then is import our wing artwork. Day 2 PNG, there we go. And there it is. So now I was thinking that we could build another artwork that uses a bunch of the different tattoo assets and just sort of go through how to get a little bit of a, you know, realistic amount of animation that has a proper flap with these wings, actually causes the body to move. And then I'll show you how to actually move it and orbit it around an object.
Yeah, let's do it.
So just a couple of sort of workarounds that I've had to figure out doing some techniques. What I'm going to do, because I want the axis point to be here so that it would actually pivot on this point when it flaps. So what I'm going to do, I mean, you could set it so you could actually rotate your artwork that way and then have your pivot set to your bottom. So we don't have right or left in here. So what I'm going to do is try and use a folder to act as my pivot point. So what I
like
want to do, yeah,
like a null object in After Effects.
exactly, yeah. So I'm going to duplicate that, and then that allows me to select the folder function. So I'll put that in a folder. So let's call this left wing. And then I'm just going to delete that one. So I just create 2, so it gives me that function to add that. So then what we can do is change to the center, and then we'll pull this wing out. So then if we actually go to origin, so there you can see it is actually, that's the origin of this folder's axis point. And then if we move the wing out, it's still there.
Yeah.
So then we'd want that more in the actual dead center. So we'll change this to be zeroed out. On the Y is fine because that's just up, but we'll get that nice and zeroed out.
Yeah, because you're manipulating the wing space, and the other one you're manipulating the folder space.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So then when it comes to animating, we'll use the folder as our animation trigger.
It's nice. That's a nice little workaround.
Because it's actually,
right
because you'll realize like when it comes to flapping, you know, you want it to actually come around this form of the body rather than just being, you know, you want a nice sort of movement to it. So it's a little bit further out from the axis point.
Yeah, keep from any weird clipping or anything happening.
Yeah, so what we'll do, I'll just quickly show you how to add start trigger. And then we're going to want to rotate. And then again, we'll just check on our properties over here which way we actually want to rotate. So it could be Z. No, it's not that. X. No, it's not that. Okay, we want it to rotate on the Y. So when it comes to it, we'll adjust our settings in the Y axis and we'll say like 90 degrees. So it comes all the way around to here and then it should go backwards. So let's slow it down, make the duration maybe 3 seconds. And we'll just do a little play preview. So, I mean, that's pretty slow. But let's set it to back and forth. So again, we'll hit play count. We're going to up that to 2. So it gives us the back and forth option. We'll hit infinite and back and forth. We'll actually bring this down, see what 1 does. So that's not bad. So you'll see here as well, like ease in and out is a nice sort of realistic way to demonstrate the flapping of these wings. Whereas if you were to do linear, it'd be pretty, you'll see how that just sort of bumps back.
There's less life to it. It's not as natural. Yeah. It's more mechanical. Yeah.
So it's a good idea to just sort of play around with these, but I find ease in and out is the more, the smoothest way to sort of create that. So there we go. And now what we actually are going to do, we'll duplicate that. But then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the one that populated here and just start fresh. So we'll call this right wing. And then what we've got now is our other wing. We're going to rotate this ourselves 180. And then our axis point is still where the other one was, but when we go to rotate, so we'll do it again. And we'll mimic the same options we've got here of 90, but what we're going to do is actually should be minus 90. Should, and then we'll turn that up. And there you go.
Boom, there it is.
So it's just making sure you think about, you know, the way you move axis points and being aware of that when you're working through it and, you know, considering what is minus and what is positive. So another way to sort of elevate this whole movement would be to then group these all together. Let's call this butterfly. And then knowing what the timing is, we're going to try and cause this to move a little bit on this Z-axis. So as if the propulsion of the wings flapping makes the whole butterfly move out just a slight touch. So if we add a move behavior, And then we want it to move on this blue axis, the Z, so it should be this one. Yep. So let's say, let's zero that out. 0. We're going to move it, say 1. Let's see what that does. Oh, so we need to set that to also play infinitely back and forth. This isn't going to be right. We're going to have to fix it, but so you can see that it's moving in the opposite direction of way the body would actually move with the wings flapping. So I want it to be
right
inverted. So if we do -1, so you can see that when they flap forward, it actually brings him back. So it's just good to know like how many seconds you've set your objects to move at, and knowing, you know, when it comes to doing these sort of combined effects.
Very cool. Question from chat from Annika.
Yeah.
What do you do when you're in a creative rut? Do you have any go-to, I don't know, practices or?
I mean, somebody recommended having a hot shower, and I started taking that advice, and it actually works.
Oh, nice.
I would say a hot shower or a long walk.
Yeah.
But I struggle with creative block so regularly. I think it gets pretty tough to, like, you know, innovate and come up with new stuff all the time. And sometimes you really just have to step away and get in touch with the things that you really enjoy. And it is why, like, you know, I think about tattoos, and it is one of those things that I've been doing for 20 years, getting tattoos done. And I have a real passion for it, and a real admiration for an artist in the scene. So that was definitely a sort of inspiration for me when it came to this, was to really highlight the styles that people do and think about it in new ways. But creative block, we all feel it. No matter how long you've been doing it, it's still there. Especially with how quickly things move these days, that you're trying to keep up constantly.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure out there to keep, you know, moving, keep grinding. I find the walk is I do take walks as well. That definitely helps.
So what I was thinking is I might bring in a couple of other objects to start building out a scene. So I was thinking this dagger that I built. So if we bring that in. So again, I'm just going to make sure that's zeroed out position-wise. And then we could scale this up. Let's just... And then what I want to do is create this butterfly to orbit and create a little bit more dynamism. So let's say we want this butterfly to flap, but then after a few seconds, we might want it to actually fly around and come back and land.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is add another behavior. And where are you? Orbit. There we go. So we're just going to add this orbit in here. And you can see there's already, you know, an unresolved conflict that you need to address. So what we're going to do is have to choose the center. So it could be any object that's already in your scene that could be the center of the orbit that it's going to take. But what
could you make an empty folder?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. I'll actually just make it like I did with the audio cube that I hid. So I'm just going to do the same sort of thing. Let's just make it a cone, for example. And then hide that. Let's shrink it down and put it where we want it. So we'll bring that and say, bring it out to here. So this should be the center point of the orbit. So it's going to come around and land back there. So our butterfly orbit, I'm going to choose the cone. Let's even change the name to orbit object, just because I'm a...
Oh yeah, it's nice. It updated it too. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, exactly. So
that's really good.
I'm pretending like I label things. So you can see here. So nice quick movement, but say, you know, you could up it to 10 seconds to take that orbit. And again, you've got some options for clockwise, counterclockwise, play count. You know, you can set it to loop constantly, or we can set it to actually have a few seconds delay and then start. So that's what I'm gonna do. I was gonna add like maybe 3 seconds. And then we'll turn that down to 5. So let's hide that orbit object. And then we'll just go to preview. So 3 seconds, and there we go. So it just brings it back into place and keeps going. So I mean,
we have a question. Can you use this to create objects for a 3D printer? I don't think you'd really do that with Aero because you're just using the 3D assets.
Yeah. You wouldn't use this for any 3D printing. You could use objects that were prepared for 3D printing in Aero, but I wouldn't.
Good point.
Yeah. Like OBJ files, FBX files, the GLTFs that I've been using here are great. But yeah, I think that gives you a good idea of just sort of, you know, the capabilities are in Aero at the moment with, you know, these sort of animated sequences. We can even hide that content. But again, we can even set this to be the same animation trigger as yesterday. So what we're going to do is in our horizontal surface, we're going to change that to image again. And then we have our, let's see, our image anchor, the same as we used yesterday. So that was the idea, was to leave this sort of page blank so people would be able to like fill this with their own AR artwork, but the same trigger would do it. So you could create multiple files with multiple QR codes, and then each QR code would actually interact and create different artworks. So you can see here that it's quite small, but I know that for myself, I printed out at 5 inches by 7 inches as typical photo print, so 5. And then what we're going to do, probably good to put this all into a folder as well. Let's just call this master. And then we're just going to rotate that all together.
Yeah, with all these groups, you can definitely see where labeling everything is going to be useful. We have another question from chat. Annika's asking, how did Luke first get into AR? Did they find inspiration from another artist service or website? I know you talked a little bit about this yesterday.
Yeah, for me, AR really started because like my career started out working in Photoshop, doing a lot of illustration, logo design, things like that. And then in about 2010, I decided to start learning 3D, and it sort of brought together my illustration work in a 3D style. So I was really approaching it from, you know, a pretty uneducated point of view, being self-taught. But for me, my first steps into AR came with creating visual assets that I would pass off to larger studios who would actually implement their AR. So for me, it was really about sort of creating an aesthetic that people would use. And then for me, it became starting to get commissioned to create my own AR lenses and experiences and things like that. So it really was preceded by just creating art and realizing that there was so much happening in the AR world that I really needed to learn it for myself. And, you know, with Aero, it is a super easy program to get started in. If you're familiar with Photoshop, After Effects, Illustrator, you know, you have the ability to create content and assets that you can manipulate really simply and easily in AR. But, you know, I think it's a really good place to start putting your energy, because I think the more people that create art this way will cause people to actually become aware of how to access it. So I think that's the real sort of task here, is to get people familiar with it and knowing how to actually enable it and interact with it.
Yeah, exactly. The more people see it and see that it's, accessible,
Yeah,
the
because
the
it
more
really is
people will use
just
it.
a QR code, and if you've got the app, you'll be able to experience it. So, I use my own QR codes to open my own files, and um, my piece yesterday I created so I would be able to send that to my mom for Mother's Day. So
Nice.
I
Yeah.
was thinking I could print out and just stick the QR code on the back of the frame, and then she'd be able to scan on the back of the frame and then view it on the front. So I think that
Oh, that's
when
a
you
really
realize how,
cool, yeah, really
yeah,
cool Mother's Day card right there, waiting to happen.
exactly.
I can only imagine you have to scan it with your phone conversation. Your phone, no, pull your phone out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My mom is a classic mom, just calling me
Uh,
up, asking me how to use the internet.
yeah, yeah.
So then let's see. So it actually goes a little bit too far into that, but let me just pull that up a little. Maybe we'll even just, because what happened was I actually shrunk everything down, and now the settings that I use
Right. Yeah.
aren't actually
Yeah, they're not what you
indicative of,
originally set. Yeah.
yeah, the scale of the project. So you'd have to actually, so I mean, that's, I'm going to say that was a good example of paying attention and troubleshooting. So if these things happen, you'll know what to look for. But we'll go to the move and we'll just change how much that actually goes. So mine is 0.2. Yeah, so that's better now. But obviously with degrees, nothing changes. It's just X, Y, and Z. So then we could bring in a couple more objects to sort of fill out this scene. If anybody has some suggestions on any like sky backgrounds and that, I can grab those off Adobe Stock.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
chat. What suggestions do you have for this?
might bring in some stars. Let's see. Okay, so find stars are a nice filler asset.
So, were you trying to match the size of the card to keep
Yeah,
that? Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So once I brought that card in, I shrank everything down. But yeah,
So you
your
couldn't
behaviors
just
have to be adjusted.
right. You couldn't just scale the card up to the size.
You could, but just in consideration of real world size for your
Yes,
image anchor
exactly.
card, that's just probably good practice to be aware of. But like I was saying yesterday, you can go to my Behance page and there is the image card that you can scan directly on the screen and it'll work. So there is forgiveness for real world scale, but it's good to sort of make sure it's somewhere in that realm. Because when I was actually testing out a couple of days ago, I started to freak out because like none of the tracking was working anymore and I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized that I'd accidentally uploaded the image anchor with some of this type just a little bit shunted and moved and scaled differently than what I was actually working with. And then when I realized that it was not the correct image anchor, I just replaced it with the old one and it worked perfectly. So there's just sort of things to be aware of if they might not be working. So we could even do like maybe a radial selection of stars, and we'll try and make them orbit around this whole artwork.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. With can you? Well, I'm just gonna wait, and I'm just gonna wait and see what you do with it.
Okay.
Then I'll ask questions.
Me too. So what I'm going to try to do here is show you how to maybe create. I haven't done this before, but I'm if my brain works, it should work. But what we're going to do here is try and create, a bit of a even radial distribution of stars manually. So we are currently moving on the Z-axis down here, and we're at, let's just say 5 nice even numbers. And then I'm going to duplicate that in place and then group that. Let's call these stars. And then I'm just going to take this up. So it'd be -5. So then if we do the center pivot, and then what we're going to do is duplicate that. And then I'm just going to shift rotate 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you could continue to add those. So I might even do, and I'm sure people might be watching this thinking that's a terrible way to do it, but
Again, if it works,
yeah.
use it.
So then we've got all those, and we've got all those, and we're going to just make it nice and clean. And this master stars.
Yeah, because you could do this. I mean, if you knew you were going to use this, you could go in and optimize a ring of stars as an asset by itself, and then import that if you wanted to, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, you could even take off the back faces if you know you'll never see under it, you know, all of those things.
So we can even just set this as like a rotation around the whole artwork. So we'll rotate and we'll do, make sure it's, that one. We're going to go 360 degrees. Let's say it takes 20 seconds to go around. It's nothing too fast. And we'll do it linear, so it'll be a nice smooth loop. We'll turn up the play count. Actually, we don't need to. We'll just go infinite because we don't want it to go back and forth.
There it is.
Yeah. So what I actually did,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, thinking about what an image anchor actually constitutes. And I had some samples that I wanted to show of just how we actually use my wife's arm tattoo as an image anchor to trigger. So you can see here.
Yeah, this is what we saw, or I saw it when I was looking through. That was really interesting, seeing how you added something.
Yeah, so you can see here. It's just really up to your imagination of what you can test out using as an image trigger. So I just took a photo of her tattoo to begin with, cropped it to be just as much of the tattoo showing as possible. And then it recognized it. And then it's just a lot of fun just sort of playing around with that. And then, it can get a little glitchy because obviously your skin isn't flat.
Right.
It can move around a little bit, but I think you can get enough good content there to sort of edit things together. And I actually had one of mine as well that I was playing around with. Where are we?
And there's a question from Misty saying, you scan a card from your phone to get this image to pop up, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I've just printed out mine. So you can even just see here, like using this photo frame just as a blank canvas, or, you can use it even in thinking about emailers. If you send out an email to clients, you could have completely interactive augmented reality within the email thread on their screen. So there's no need to have it printed in real life, but it's just kind of up to you, just how far you want to take.
Yeah, and I think I know there's another help page somewhere that has all the available, list of devices that will work with Aero. So you'd have to check that out to see if yours works.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find those. Oh, I lost that's all right. But yeah, I posted that today. The one using my wife's tattoo, if you want to take a look on on my Instagram. But I've got enough tattoos to just sort of play around with.
Go check out Luke's Instagram. I know I scoured it over the weekend looking at all the really cool projects you've done.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it really is just kind of like a nice place to present my work these days. It's it's a different game out there these days, but it's just nice to have like almost a journal of my process up there.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about, sending in an email. I mean, if you're doing you could do this with anything. If you're doing a PowerPoint presentation for someone or
Yep,
anything, just anywhere you can put in a target.
exactly. So
And
we might even,
I'm
yep,
guessing it would totally be unexpected too. So it might be a little wow factor you can add to something.
yeah, definitely. So I was thinking we could even just put some audio to this, and just so everyone can see how to do that again. We'll open up our content. We'll bring in another abstract shape. And this time we'll just say a disk. And then we could actually set it to trigger when we come within a proximity. So I can show you how to do that. So we'll call this audio object. And then let's hide that. And then because I want that to trigger within a certain proximity, again, I showed yesterday just how to sort of use some of these objects as a reference for the scale of your scene. So here you got a cylinder, we've got it, our size is 20 centimeters. So we know if we come to this point here at basically the top, 20 centimeters within here, it could trigger the audio to play. So let's add.
Gives you a nice bounding box too when you select it and it's hidden.
So we're going to do proximity enter. So when we enter within 20 centimeters of this object, I want it to play some sound. So let's go play audio. And then again, we're going to go into our audio clip settings and we can go to the folder and some of the audio presets. Ambience is perfect. Let's see, what do we got here? Crowd cheer down, jungle. Jungle could be cool. So we'll just do a little audio test. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Animals, dog bark, bird chirp. Maybe even a nature trail will be fine. And then just do an audio test.
It was really short.
Yeah, because I think we could even add multiple. I wonder if I can do that to the same object. So let's add audio. And let's try adding another one. Let me try nighttime.
Well, that's a good question. Phil's asking, can Aero handle looped animations as textures of objects?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I did yesterday with that, the animated banner. I believe is that what they're asking?
I think they're asking about the textures on the 3D assets. Can you animate the textures on them?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you created a transparent PNG sequence, I guess I could even try and go into Photoshop and do a quick GIF animation of this eye blinking, and then we could come back in and I could show you how that works.
Well, I'm thinking things like, I think he's thinking about like the handle of the dagger being,
Okay.
like something that's on the 3D object, not, not like an image sequence that stands on its own.
So yeah, I don't know if you could actually animate textures on the 3D objects, but
you
yeah,
can, you can animate like you showed, just bringing in an object or a flat image that's a series of images.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at right now is like I think that's the best option if you were to do that. But
Phil, if you want to clarify that question, let us know.
Yeah, because I mean, like what I was just saying is, you could create, animation sequence in Photoshop where it's just we could blink this eye a little bit, and then we would
Yes.
re-import those
I could definitely,
textures.
yeah, I could definitely see an eye blink happening here.
Yeah. I
Even
mean, I could,
staggered would be interesting. Like,
yeah, I
you
might
know,
even do that in After Effects. I can bring that's a good idea. Let's try that from here.
okay, so Phil is just asking about, yeah, you can definitely do that, Phil. He's saying if you wanted the eyes to blink, yes, that is something that can be done.
Cool. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go in After Effects, and then I'm going to see if we can get that wing to blink, and then we'll just be able to replace that asset, and it'll have all of the behaviors already locked in that we can just update.
Right.
So let's import this wing. So let's go to butterfly wing. I'm just going to drag that into After Effects. Let's create a comp.
Yeah, I was thinking a completely different thing where you're animating the textures on the 3D objects.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I know
see what you're
that's a,
saying.
yeah, yeah. I know there's a lot of like neat, at least there. I'm sure they're still out there somewhere, but there's a lot of tutorials about making tunnels out of just a tube, but you have an animated texture on it, so it looks like it's moving forever, that sort of thing.
So what I might do is I might create two files for this. I'm going to turn off this top piece here. So then I'm just going to save that as bottom. Quick export that.
Oh, so you're separating all of the individual pieces that you'll need to animate.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it just means that that'll crop over the top, like, and the thing is, I'm not the most proficient After Effects expert, so let's see how we do. But what I'm going to do is then
I've got a feeling you're going to do just fine.
We're all going to figure it out together.
That's right.
So what I'm going to do is detach that, and then okay, so then that'll be top. Okay, so then we'll bring in top and bottom. We'll do that again. Let me just...
Cool. As a reminder, if you're watching us over on YouTube, come on over to Behance where we can see your questions in chat. It's behance.net/Adobe Live. And yeah, we've got about 50-ish minutes left. So yeah, get your questions in here. We've got about 21 minutes until the artist spotlight.
So I'm just going to make sure I've got 24 frames a second, 3 seconds sounds good. And then just going to add in...
You guys may be hearing my cat. If we're lucky, you'll get a good hello out of her, but she can sometimes say hello pretty convincingly.
All right, so I've drawn in my shape layer. Just going to bring that underneath that eyelid, eyebrow, I guess it is. It's not perfect, but if we had all day, I'd finesse it. But let's just open this up. Come on. So let's just say that's there. So I'm just going to like frame by frame this really. Okay, so we've got our eyelid. We're going to hit anchor point. Let's see what happens in 1 second if we bring that down. This could be terrible, but it'll give you a quick idea of...
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks good to me. Gotta set that, yeah, second frame.
let's go back to where
I
it
don't
was.
think you set the second frame for it being
Yeah.
closed or open. Well,
Oh. Anybody else got some help out there? Oh, shape one. Here
yeah,
we
do
go.
it the shape path.
That's
not
what's wrong.
There it is. We'll get there. We'll get there.
We always
I
get
have
there.
complete faith in us, Luke.
I've been doing it for almost 20 years and I never do it right the first time. There is just so many buttons to know. All right, so here we go. That should work. Let's say 1 second. Come on.
Should be able to double click that maybe or select it directly. There it is. Oh, go back to the path and not, yeah, you got it. I'm going to stop.
No, you're
you
good.
got this.
There we go.
Is.
There we go. Okay, so let's step out. And then I'll just... Cool. So then I might even just bring that up a bit faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I should be able to copy. Whoop. No.
Phil's saying they have to learn After Effects now.
Yeah, I do a lot of my compositing in After Effects. It's a lot of fun. I don't do as much animating like this, but I do a lot of like post-production stuff in After Effects.
Yeah. And you could do this in Photoshop, if you wanted to as well.
Yeah,
it's just really about what you're comfortable in,
Yeah, I think for me, it's being able to output here. The PNG sequence makes it a lot easier.
Yes. Using media encoder, I think.
Yeah, so we've got a blinking eye happening here. And then we could even just shrink that down, change our length to like 2 seconds, just saves on the amount of frames that we're going to bring in. So I'll save that.
I mean, it's looking good. You said you weren't sure about the results, but I'm liking it.
So let's call this blinking eye. And then just like we did yesterday with that banner, because this is already transparent around here with our PNGs, we'll just add that to media encoder. And then we've got this set PNG sequence with alpha. So I'll read our transparent background. Make sure this is saving. That should work. Hit play. Cool. And then if we come back into Aero, let's see if we can just update our butterfly wing. Okay, so we've got butterfly wing. Let's see if this works. Replace asset. Oh, first, sorry, I've got to make sure that that file is...
Oh, you have to zip it, right?
Yeah. Okay, yep. So here's all our PNGs. So you can see there that it blinks, opens up again. So what we're going to do is zip that. And then a blink. So that's already in our Creative Cloud files. So I'll just wait for that to go green.
This is what you did with the banner yesterday as well, right?
That's right. Yep.
Zipping and
cool. So that's green. We can upload that now. So I'm going to try and just replace that asset, select file.
Again, I'm gonna apologize for my cat.
Oh, we've got a little something going on here.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
I was curious if it would bug out from a static image to then playing animation, because I haven't actually set that trigger to play those images. So let me just see. So what I might do is, let's start again. So I'm going to bring in that blinking eye. Okay. So what we're going to do with that, we're going to make sure that trigger is set to start and play images. Yesterday we ran into the issue I hit play animation, and that's
Right. Yeah.
not for an image sequence. So make sure you just check play images. So if we even just, there we go, a blinking eye.
It's definitely working. Yep.
It's working. So what you could do is, because you have set the folder as the behavior trigger here, and nothing actually on this artwork image, it's just a matter of, we should be able to then bring that into there and then just match up. So we're going to rotate that into place. We'll scale this down. And then F for that shortcut that'll bring it to center. So again, we'll just shrink this down a bit. And then if we turn off that other one, let's just hide the right wing for now so we know what we're editing.
Yeah, it's a convenience too that the folders are already animated. All you have to do is drop something in there, and
yeah, exactly.
It's gonna work like you planned it.
So what we're going to actually do is make sure that blinking animation loops. So we've got 1 to 48 frames. So that was the 2 seconds at 40, at 2 seconds at 24 frames. So that's our whole sequence there. And you can increase the speed in post here. So you could change how quickly that's happening.
That's interesting. I didn't know you could, so you can manipulate the interpolation after the
Yes.
fact.
So
That's cool.
we can crank that up, slow it down.
Yeah,
I think it was working.
it's a nice little, you know, if you hadn't planned for it, you might be able to still salvage it.
Yeah, so it saves you having to go back to After Effects and change things dramatically. So it's just a nice little piece to add there. But we're going to do infinite, and we're going to maybe we'll delay it, so then when it comes back, it'll be visible. So we'll delay it a second. So yeah, you can start to see that.
It's a nice touch.
So I think it could even go a little bit faster. So I might even just turn this up a little bit. Let's say 24 frames per second, which I guess would be its actual
native.
Yeah. And then let's delete the original image of the wing I had in there. Same. And I'm going to duplicate the one that I've done here and then bring it into the right wing. Delete that. And then we'll just turn the right wing back on, and then we'll rotate this and pull that over. And then we'll make sure that's actually touching the body.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a nice addition.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're actually crossing over a little bit. So what I'm going to do,
I can see that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it might be because the where I had the axis center is a little off, but what we can do is then just adjust our left and right wing, how actually far they do rotate. So let's say 80.
Yeah, I think the orbit may have gotten skewed too.
Okay.
We moved it down.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you tell me. I'm just
There we
watching.
go.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I think it shows you really quickly and easily how you can just get started with simple animations from After Effects or Photoshop, using 2D
Absolutely. Yeah.
surfaces to elevate, your whole workflow. Ooh. And it's actually good when you just click to home, it'll just do like an auto save. So that's kind of when it starts to, see, so it was doing that.
Well, we've got about 8 minutes or so until the artist spotlight.
Cool.
And then after we do the spotlight, we'll have a little bit of time.
Yeah, so I find that sometimes I get a little notification popping up, it'll be like, make a copy, but I think if you just sort of click out of Aero and start back up again, it usually works.
Oh, okay.
So you can see it's thinking there. So then we could try and create more of a reveal on this with our dagger. So let's bring in some behavior triggers. So yeah, like it's good to know that you can view all the behaviors in a row here, or you go to the selected and it'll just show you what is per object. So I'm going to have this dagger scale up from the start. We still have our audio playing there. So let's reveal this dagger. Let's show. We want to show, say, half a second. You can scale or fade. We'll do a scale to ease in and out. We'll play it once. So just gives you a quick sample of what it does. And I think our butterfly, it's good to do that on the whole folder structure it's got there. So we'll just apply another trigger. We've got the move and orbit so far. We can add another show. So I just like to put that at the top because I want that to be the first behavior it recognizes. So that's pretty quick. So we'll do another 5 as well. Like I was saying yesterday, you can really use your delay to change the pace of the way objects come in. So knowing that the dagger comes in half a second, I'm going to delay this half a second. So it'll be dagger, butterfly, and then we'll do the stars. So we'll do a 0.5 second delay. So then,
it's a good way to point interest too, like, how you want to guide that coming in.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much for this, but like on another project or something, if you wanted to, stagger how things come in so that something that just has a little more importance than something else.
Yeah. So what we were noticing here in the preview is the way things sort of clunk on there, but that's because I haven't hidden them in the project. So we're just going to hide those so they'll start from 0.
There it is.
And then we could do the same for our stars. So we'll turn those off, but we'll give them another show. And then we might even just do a fade on so it comes on really softly. And maybe a 1 second duration. So it's.
Yeah, I'm guessing you could go nuts with this and bring on the stars individually and
yeah, I mean,
sorts of things if you
that's
wanted.
the thing as well, is knowing, you could go in and do things individually inside the folders, but I find that adding behaviors to folders really helps if you do need to replace objects, graphics, things like that. So they're already sort of baked in to your folder structures. So again, we could even change how far the the butterfly orbits. Could make it larger by bringing out this orbit object a little bit further. So if we preview our butterfly, we'll just preview this orbit. Oh, maybe we'll just preview in here. Oh, I see what's happening. It's rotating around that way. So let's move it, say, up. Let's hide that. We'll hide that so they preview on nice. There you go.
Nice. Yeah.
And you could also, set that to play count. You could up that play count. You could delay it because they'll be delayed. So even 3 counts.
And you could add tap triggers or anything like that to this as well, right?
Yeah. So what we could do is actually, say our dagger, we can add tap trigger. And then we could say rotate so it'll spin on its axis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's test over here, which way? Not that way. Not that way. It's always the last way I pick.
Right.
So we're going to go on the Y. We're going to do 360 degrees. Let's say 5 seconds. So if we tap that, it's going to work. And then we'll hide that, make sure it previews. So we click it. There we go.
Oh, nice timing with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That could be an idea too. When you tap it, the butterfly, takes off.
Yeah, and just like yesterday, we sort of showed how you can add a little tap graphic, a little call to action. It'd be great to add into these things.
Little instructions for the viewer.
Yeah. I think that's what's great about AR is that it can be really sort of an extensive story that can unravel as you go through it. So it really is up to you just how much information you want to show and hide and get the audience to interact with and reveal.
Have you had any, longer experiences with, AR, like you were mentioning, telling a story maybe over a minute or so?
Yeah, because that was kind of like my first project with Aero was the birding with Velvet Spectrum. And that was kind of, I wanted to create more of a world space where it was proximity triggers were kind of the thing I was really trying to flex because it would cause you to like go and explore the scene and things pop up depending on where you are in the mapped environment. Right. So with this, it was really trying to show how you can use an image anchor as a really, simple way to elevate the idea. And I think the more I get used to this stuff, the more I realize like how much more detail I can start to build up.
Right.
And even just going through this and explaining it really helps me sort of dig deeper into it and sort of flex some things that I'm not too familiar with.
Well, I think it is about time to do our artist spotlight today.
Sweet.
If you're ready for that.
Absolutely.
All right.
I've got it pulled up here.
All right. Our artist spotlight today is with Amrit Singh, and I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not sure. But we have quite a collection on Behance. And I think maybe we have a couple we want to talk about. Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of character design myself. So I love the way that people flex their creativity. And I actually love these modular rooms that he's built.
Yeah.
And it's
definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, I think that it's great to be able to create a series where you really have created a modular template that there's so much storytelling that can exist in one cube here that, then also, no matter how far you deviate from what a concept might be, there is still that thread that binds it all together. And that is this sort of honeycomb format, which is really nice.
Yeah, those are all good, all really nice. And they all have their own little, like, if you go through and read, they all have their own, he has his own reasons for putting things in, and what the inspiration was. We've got a little bit of Harry Potter, a little bit of Lord of the Rings.
Little Jetsons down here.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's great to, like a lot of us were just sort of executionist artists, and now we've got a platform to really create our own stories. And I think people are craving that sort of rich narrative in their artworks these days, and that's what I try to think of, is like, how do I pull someone in and make them linger and try and like dive deeper and understand what the concept was and what the storytelling part of it is trying to achieve. So I mean, it's great to see, like, really nice cartoonish 3D style.
This is, I think, Tom and Jerry's Tom.
Oh,
Jerry's,
perfect.
Jerry's
Yeah, that's
room.
great. Yeah, great. But I did see some typography on here, and I'm always partial to typography.
Yeah, and a lot of examples here. Like, draw you in with the cover and then take you the rest of the way with everything else.
Yeah, because it's nice. Like, obviously, it's kind of like an extruded type asset here, but I think adding a lot of these edge details is bringing a lot of depth into this really nicely. Yeah, because I mean, like, when I started out in 3D, it was really just extruding shapes for a number of years before I really felt comfortable getting into learning how to sculpt and model things. And it's got a really nice render on these.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got.
This is also a lettering project with the little the O left.
Oh yeah,
right there. I think this was a 36 Days of Type project.
Yeah, 36 Days of Type was actually a really good project for me to get started on back. I think the first year I did, like, first couple of years. And it was just a great way for me to have one thing to focus on per day, where it was like, and I think that's why I really gravitate towards typography, is that it is kind of like a self-imposed brief. It has to say something, it has to resemble a letter form, but whatever that could be is kind of up to you. So I mean, that's why I get really experimental with my typographic work. But it's great to see that he's trying out different things with renders and materials here, sort of deviating from that cartoonish style, and trying something a little bit more glossy and refractive. It's really nice. Yeah, because like this is the playground of where you sort of harvest ideas and see where it could lead to. And that's kind of why I say, like, a lot of the work that led to the Aero projects have been things that I've toyed with in the past, and then finally having a home to promote them and craft them and flesh them out is great.
Yeah, and this, I mean, I don't know, this happens with you, but sometimes, like, an accident may happen when you're working, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not an accident. That's on purpose. Yeah.
I think knowing when an accident should be followed, I think taking those moments to really, like, pursue that and not think it has to be fixed. I think really just sort of following those accidents is a lot of where my best ideas come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, like, even just learning these techniques in typography, they have bigger implications when it comes to more illustrative pattern work that you might get commissioned for. It's just kind of endless of the way these could be applied, especially to client work, personal work, things like that.
Right. Yeah. And then having those in your back pocket too, like, hey, I know this works. I can always fall back on this, but let's try this new thing,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really worth your while, like, sort of straying into different genres and styles and ways of applying your art. I really like these dioramas. because I like that he mixes up his treatments. You know, there is a lot of neon or there's cartoonish style. So it really is just trying to
Yeah, this is cool.
understand the real world sort of lighting and shadows. And I think that's what, for me, working in 3D made me study the world at a greater detail, because you're having to look at, you know, scratches and the amount of
Right.
reflection on a surface and how much
And
light's emitting.
have you found that the working in 3D has also helped with your drawing and everything else? Because I have,
Yes. Yeah,
like,
I think it's so important to because, you know, like when a line isn't in the right direction, you know, if a perspective is off.
hmm
And I think that's all having a greater understanding of a 3D space. And that was the real
exactly.
challenge, like getting started, was thinking about things from like side perspective, front perspective, and how to sort of navigate 3D. And
Yeah.
you know, it just
And the
becomes
more,
second nature.
exactly, and the more you model or use 3D space, the kind of, I think it just kind of gets stuck in your brain how this works. And then the next time you're illustrating or something, it's already there, so
Yeah.
you just reference it without even knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting how many skill sets sort of transfer across all the different
hmm
creative styles. And it's like learning one thing that you may not do every day. It can have massive impacts on your illustration work or your typography.
Yeah, and these are
Um,
great too. These characters
yeah,
are, it's got a little breakdown of them. It's pretty nice.
because you know, it's definitely a popular thing with NFTs these days. Is like, you know, this
Mm,
sort of modular system where you can have, you know, a nice grounded theme, but playing with materials and clothing, character aspects. Um, so I mean, he's definitely on the right track with all his work, and
hmm
um, it's going to be really cool to see
Looks
where he ends
great.
up.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Go give Amrit a follow, everybody. And we're going to get back
Oh, there's some
to.
animation. Very
Oh,
cool.
yeah, sure is. Look at this.
Nice.
Nice little repeat there.
That's great.
Very cool. Um,
Awesome.
do you want to head back into Aero and see what else we can add with
Yeah.
our remaining time?
Yeah. So we could even just maybe start a fresh document. And if
That's
anyone
right.
has any suggestions of
Yeah.
maybe
Suggest away,
some
chat.
objects that we'd like to work with.
Give us some more questions. You've got, what, maybe um, 15, 20 minutes? Not that long. Can't be that long. I'm looking at the time. I'm trying to do math. Yeah, we've got like 15 minutes
Let's
ish.
look at, see what we've got. What I was actually thinking is it might be fun to actually tweak what we did yesterday and add a few extra Adobe Stock assets to create a bit more of a parallax.
Yeah.
So day one. So what I'm going to do. Okay. So these are just some images that I got off Adobe Stock. And I was thinking it'd be great to sort of chop these up, maybe layer them a little bit, set their depth a little bit differently in Aero, so that when you move around the object, the background scene will have a little bit more dimension.
Nice.
So let's just open that up. And let's select this one for now. Just Control J onto a new layer. I like to just convert to smart object. Open that.
And you don't have a pre-designed plan for this, right? You're just kind of
No, I
playing
just
now,
figured
right?
we'd try and like add a little bit more detail, just showing how you can use some flat graphics to add a little bit more dimension to your
Right.
AR scene. So just using Magic Wand, just going to delete that out. And then I'm just going to shrink this down a bit. It doesn't need to be huge, so we'll make it like 600 wide. Let's call this Rock 1. We'll just leave it as a PNG, Rock 1. And then back in Aero, we'll import that. Rock 1. And then F to bring that to center. And we'll just turn on a few things so we know where we're at. And the cake disappointment picture. Yeah, so I just wanted to sort of try and build up this background image a little bit with some more dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to rotate that. And then if we turn on our mask frame, so we want it to be somewhere in between. So
I see. You're putting this in the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So
same one we worked on yesterday.
Yeah. So what we can do is move that maybe this way. Might even just rotate it a bit. Then we could even move our background image up a little bit. So you'll see that if you move around a little bit,
oh yeah, there's a little bit of extra parallax in there.
So we might even bring that up a little bit closer to the, I think these clouds are a little bit too opaque. Let's bring that up there for a bit.
Can you do any opacity adjustments or anything like that in Aero?
I don't think so. To my knowledge, I can't. So that was just why I went in and just sort of reduced the opacity of that in Photoshop and re-imported it. Let me just see. I don't believe so. Let's say rock.
Again, I'm sure that's one of the things that will, eventually be added.
Yeah.
I can only imagine where this is going to go from here.
Yeah, and that's why I think it'd be great for people to get started now, because I think entering it at this point, it's really basic and intuitive, and it'll only get stronger, I think, with the integration with Substance, Stager, and other apps like that.
I'm really excited for the 3D aspects of the Adobe products.
Yeah,
I really can't. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just saying, I really can't wait to see where it all takes us.
Yeah, because I've been fortunate to work on a lot of the early stuff with Adobe Dimension. Even before it was that, I was working on Project Felix. That was the beta program. So it's been really cool to see the kind of progression here and work on a number of projects. So we could even, so you can see like the rock here, but it's nice when you actually move that and you realize that, it's going to occlude what's behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could bring in trees.
Yeah, the background image moving. Would you want to like put that rock on that or do it separate?
Yeah. So I think if we add a little bit of movement to the rock as well. So we'll just add another one, move that just back and forth. So let's say, which way do we want it to go? Not that way. Yeah, so let's go on the Z. We'll move it like maybe 0.3, and then we'll do it back and forth. Yeah, so it's got a little bit of movement that contradicts the way the background's going as well. So it adds a little movement. So then...
can you affect shadow? I know I'm asking all these questions, but I genuinely have questions about Aero. Can you? I know it does like a little mock shadow when you just bring an item in. Can you adjust that shadow and lighting in Aero, or is it?
No, that's actually one thing that I was curious about myself. Was actually you could rotate the light source, but that's something that you can do in Stager and Substance Painter. And that was kind of how I moved the light source when I baked out these materials for the 3D models.
So it
I
gets
kind of,
built in to the model at that point. Gotcha.
But they are like PBR materials, so they do work with all kinds of 3D programs, you know, like Unreal, things like that.
So do you plan your like, is there any best practices for planning lighting for these? Like keep it flat or
Yeah,
just
I
thinking
mean,
about the asset?
yeah, because it is a different process for me than I usually do working in my other 3D programs where I kind of have multiple soft boxes and environmental surfaces and things like that. But there are, you know, abilities to do that, but it's also limited because of the way that these models and materials can work across multiple programs and applications. But yeah, I think, you know, that's just the thing of working in 3D is that you have to be really competent across so many facets, whether it's modeling and rendering to lighting and animation. It does run the full gamut of skill sets these days, and it's kind of imperative to know all of them to be competitive. And that's just kind of where I've had to really just learn it all to know. I'm just feel like I'm problem solving every single day.
Yeah, I think that's part of the business, right? Part of
Absolutely.
the nature of it, and also learning new programs constantly. You know, or things about programs.
I can't believe, like, I used to remember when I just wished I knew how to use Photoshop, and now I can't even count the amount of programs that I've learned over the years.
Right. I've forgotten some programs that I've used. You know, it's like
yeah. So I'm just gonna chop this one out again. Ooh.
We've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay, sweet.
So plenty of time.
Sweet. Let's call this rock 2. I might actually shrink that down a bit. Do 600 as well. Rock 2. There we go. But you can see how quickly and easily you can just like create an asset, bring it in. Because then if we bring that one in, but then have that a little bit further towards the back, scale that down.
Yeah. And it's so quick that, you know, there's no really a mistake, you know, or getting a new asset or anything like that. Just a matter of minutes to fix it or change it. I like the idea of like taking your own photography, then breaking the pieces down and making something like this, because the lighting will be the same if you use, you know, one image. It's really nice.
Because that's what I was thinking when I was creating this artwork, was like, oh, you know, I take so many photos that I don't always have a use for, like other than memories. So it was really nice to put this together and use it as like the basis of the inspiration for this one.
Make all new memories.
Yeah.
Augmented reality memories.
So you can start to see a little bit of, you know, parallax movement with those different rocks sort of laid in different areas. But then it is like, you know, you could bring in, you know, some leaves here if you wanted, and start to build up the whole scene with the background as the main scene.
Yeah, you could really add a lot to this. If you know, I guess you could keep adding until the program tells you can't anymore, you know, at that point.
Yeah. So then we'll just, might even just set these clouds to fade on. So it'll be, let's turn everything off and it should all be, actually, let's set some reveal triggers on this.
My cat will not give up. She's not going to stop.
because that could be even cool if these animate scale on, because they kind of look like they come up into the scene. Maybe a bit. Let's put a little delay on it of about maybe half a second. Scale that. Let's try fade and scale.
Yeah, and it could be cool to see those pop up, you know, after your front card comes up too.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, see?
Perfect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Because that's, again, just another way to add, you know, some really quick dimensionality to your flat graphics.
Yeah, well done, Luke. Really well done. Do you want to give us a recap of the last couple of days?
Yeah.
Just kind of walk us through what we did, what we've learned.
Yeah, so I mean, we've spent the last couple of days just working in Adobe Aero, just demonstrating how quickly and easily you can bring, you know, all your different 2D and 3D assets together to create some really dynamic AR experiences that can be triggered with either, you know, these image anchors here that we have. We can also add audio. We can add tap functionality for people to interact and reveal things within their artwork. But ultimately, it's just a real fun way to try and level up, you know, the work that we all do and in fun and interactive ways in augmented reality. So I think it's just, you know, great. Try and find yourself a theme to work with and try and build out a nice series. And all of these assets are available on my Behance page that you can check out. All the 3D assets are there. Download them, play with them, build your own compositions, test them out with your own triggers. You can test them out on the Behance page with the image anchor on there. So yeah, it's all there for you to just sort of get started and you know, see if you can recreate some of this and do your own thing as well.
Yeah, really appreciate you adding that Behance with all of that, with all of those assets. I mean, that's already something that people just go out and do right now and take a part in creating some kind of augmented reality themselves.
Yeah, I think, you know, I just wanted to make sure that people could get up and running really quickly with some fun stuff. So
yeah, well done. You did a great job. Thank you for taking us through this two-part series.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to tell everybody to stay tuned for the XD Creative Challenge Encore that's coming up right after this stream. Adobe Live will be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time for a new episode of the Adobe Adobe Fonts with Ari Rumandakis and Ben Welch, followed by a very special Earth Day stream with Adobe Live's very own Paco Siller. Shout out to Paco. But yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks, Luke. I really do appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.